Hello there, YouTube. Hope you're doing well. Let's talk about MMR in Dead by Daylight. Wait, where are you going? Is it because I mentioned MMR? Please come back. Please come back. I'll make it a good video. Please come back. Don't leave. This is a pretty big topic. It has been for a while, but especially right now because they just made it more strict for the veteran players and the higher hour players by raising the soft cap. I'm going to sum up MMR and how it works for those of you that don't know, or those of you who know what it is but are unaware of how it actually functions. Also, as a note for this video, I'm going to use the term MMR as well as skill-based matchmaking, SBMM, kind of interchangeably because they are a part of the same system. MMR stands for matchmaking rating. It is an invisible number that you cannot see unless you modify the game in order to determine where you place in the matchmaking. It is literally your rating of matchmaking level. And when you first start the game, you start at a certain number. If you do really well and you get a bunch of kills as killer, or you escape as survivor, your MMR goes up. However, if you die as survivor, or you don't get many kills or no kills at all as killer, your MMR goes down. There are quite a few factors that determine how much MMR you gain or lose within a match. For example, how many kills you actually got, whether or not you got teammates out and they escaped, whereas you died. It will lessen the impact of the loss of MMR, the average time spent in the match in general, etc., etc. And if you're doing really, really well, and you are an experienced player that's doing well match after match after match, then what you will end up finding is that you might hit the soft cap. The soft cap is basically a net to keep everyone that passes it within that boundary. Once you pass it, the vast majority of players that you're going to be playing against are also going to be players past the soft cap. Sometimes there are exceptions to this, such as if you are a veteran player playing as Survivor friends with some of your friends that are brand new to the game, or if queue times just get really long and it can't find anyone in your region for that soft cap. There's also other variations of this kind of thing as well, with a lower skill bracket, a higher skill bracket, and also the beginning trial period of your MMR, where it adjusts it rapidly depending on your performance. Then there is a hard cap, a number that I don't think any actual player has reached, but basically that's where the MMR cuts off. You can't pass it once you reach that number. But that is the basis of how MMR works for those that don't know, and the simple functionality of it. There's a lot more in-depth stuff to it, and certain exceptions, certain rules to it, but that's the baseline of the system. And on paper, it sounds like a fair system to keep everything in check and keep the matches fair. On execution, though, a lot of people don't like it, including myself. And the reason that I don't like MMR or SBMM in its current state is because it feels very, very lackluster in terms of variety. It is stressful, it is frustrating, and being expected to perform at 100% effort every single game is exhausting. And it burns me out on a game incredibly fast. And I understand DBD's MMR isn't perfect, and it does give some variation every now and then. Some people get it more than others. In my personal experience, especially since they made it more strict, I've had two types of matches. One where you have the absolute optimal gamers with thousands of hours, pre-dropping, playing optimally, going crazy, which I've rarely had before. But now it's just a common occurrence at this point, and that's the majority of my matches. And then in between, sometimes I get matches where everyone gives up at 5 gens and no one plays the game. And it's just a back and forth between those two, and it's gotten so incredibly boring. As Survivor, I mainly play solo queue, so my MMR is probably not that high. I haven't noticed a huge difference in solo queue personally. I'm not going to escape that much in solo queue. I mean, come on. So my MMR can't be that high. I used to be able to play Dead by Daylight for 8, 10, 12 hours a day and just have a good time the entire way through because I was getting variety and I was getting different types of matches and different types of players, and overall it was a lot more casual. But now, after about 3 hours, I'm pretty burnt. Some days it only takes an hour. And before we get too deep into the video, because I know people's attention spans lessen as the watch time goes on, I want to cover the common misconceptions as to why I and many others do not like strict MMR or SBMM in video games. The biggest misconception, and the most popular one that I hear all the time, is you just want to stomp on new players. You want to dominate new players, you want to absolutely slaughter them, and you want to have fun at their expense. And the honest response to this is, if that's what I wanted to do, I can already do that. Here's proof. I took 8 minutes to make a brand new Steam account and then family share my normal Steam account over to that account so I get DBD and all the DLCs without paying a dime for it. Then I booted the game up, and this is the first match that I played. These guys had no idea what they were doing or where they were. And the point I'm making with this is, if that's what people wanted that don't like MMR, we'd be doing this all the time. We would just make brand new accounts. It's not that hard. You can pretty much do it an unlimited amount of times and just keep doing it without paying a dime. in order to just keep stomping on new players and do it over and over and over with alt accounts. And let me tell you, I couldn't make it through one match of doing this. I can't imagine doing this for hours and playing against players like this. I would be so incredibly bored because it's the same result, but getting there a different way. Because with the other way, with going against non-stop veteran players over and over and over, it's exhausting, it's stressful, it's frustrating. Every match is really close. But with this, it's not even a challenge. It's not a competition. These guys are brand new. And honestly, to the point where I just had to act the whole time like I was a new player too. And I honestly think that I deserve an Oscar for this shit. I think I deserve a Grammy here. Because if you look at this footage, I was really in it. I was in the character. I was playing like a dumbass. I was trying to swing and miss at everything I could. I was pretending like I didn't see people that were so obvious and sticking out like a sore thumb. I was in the new player mindset. I was a phenomenal actor on this, and I think I deserve an award for it, in my honest opinion. Anyway, I just wanted to cover that point with some proof on it as well. The second misconception, and another one that I've been hearing a lot more recently, is if you don't care about doing well, if you're a casual player, then why do you put in 100%? You don't have to. You should just be able to lose over and over, and then eventually go down to a matchmaking rating in which is lower. And while technically true, nobody likes to lose. No matter how much of a casual player you are, no matter how much you play it for fun and believe it's a party game, nobody likes to lose over and over. Nobody likes to get stomped over and over. You'd rather just play a different game, right? You'd rather go play a single-player game or go play a different game. And I'd also like to say that if you have to lose match after match over and over and over just to have a fun experience and also try to avoid getting too many kills or too many escapes because you're afraid of the system punishing you for that, that's not a good system, especially for an unranked mode where you can't even see this invisible number. And not to say that losing can't be fun, but when you're at that level of the MMR where you have to lose 10, 15, 20, 30, maybe even 50 games to get below the soft cap in DBD, it won't even be fun stomps where everyone's just dicking around and messing about, because those are actually fun. It's just going to be the same perks over and over, the same builds over and over, the same kind of players over and over, and nothing's ever going to change. And that is the key point as to why I don't like MMR or SBMM. It's not that I'm opposed to a challenging match, and it's not that I want to stomp on new players. It is the complete and utter lack of variety of players, builds, and skill sets across matches. I used to play a lot of Halo 3 during its prime time, and I even played some Halo 2 as well. And in that game, that was some of the most fun multiplayer with randoms I've ever experienced. It was one of the first games to implement MMR, or the SBMM, skill-based matchmaking system, that we know today. And the creator of that system has come out and talked about how modern SBMM is way too strict, creates a lack of variety, and causes a lot of stress and exhaustion on players very quickly, creating tons of burnout. And we're not going to go over the entire thread, but he does go in depth as to how the matchmaking worked, where the matchmaking in casual modes were basically just the Wild West. It allowed mostly everybody to play with each other as long as the connection was good. It was kind of a Wild West, which created a lot of chaos and a lot of fun times and a lot of variety and variability in the matches, which I think is the best way to do it. Variety is the spice of matchmaking. But to sum up the entire thread in the best way, I think this tweet of the entire thing is the best summarization. The failure of modern skill-based matchmaking, in my honest opinion, is that it's designed to maximize these perfect match scenarios and minimize the others. When it's working, a majority of games become super tight, super stressful. That's not fun for most players. Where's the variability? That is my problem with modern SBMM and strict matchmaking, said by one of the founding fathers of SBMM. It is not a fun game when it is the same players and the same type of builds and the same kind of stress over and over and over. He also talks about how even ranked had some variability in it as well, where it did try to find people close to your skill, but it wouldn't restrict it entirely and had a lot of leeway. And then in unranked modes, it was pretty much full-on chaos with a little bit of lining things up every now and then in order to keep it a lot more chaotic. Now, I'm obviously aware that DBD only has one mode that doesn't have ranks. It's just a hidden MMR system, which I'm not a fan of. I don't like how that can be manipulated and tweaked at any given time and not know how it's working in the background. And I used to be against this, but I think the best way going forward for DBD is an unranked mode and a ranked mode. A casual mode, a quick play, and then there is a ranked mode where you have a visible rank, like before, where you can earn rewards, maybe blood points or shards for the lower levels, and actual maybe cosmetics and charms for the higher levels every 3 months, aka a season. And you can have those ranks in order to show it off. There's actual matchmaking, there's MMR, whereas in the casual mode, they remove it. Not completely, it should still be working somewhat to protect the new players, like the ones in the footage that I showed, to stop them from going against me. That should never happen, but it should be so loose to the point where it's almost unnoticeable, to where skill sets and play styles of all sorts of different players can come together and play the game for inconsequential, casual fun. And those that want to sweat and earn something for it and have a reason to do so can go into the ranked mode, grind it out, put on the best of the best, sweat their ass off with the best stuff in the game, and have a reason to do so. I personally see the game as a party game and very casual and not really competitive in any way, but some people disagree with that. And I think there should be a ranked mode for those people to earn something and have a reason to do that. And yes, people are still going to go into the unranked mode and sweat. It will happen. Some people do just want to stomp on players. That's part of the point, is that there is that option and there is that variability and there is that amount of variety to where you could be going against any type of player at any point in that kind of mode. And also, on top of that, I do think the DC penalty should probably be removed. That way, if you're going all out, people have the choice to play against you or not, and a bot can take their place if they want to. In fact, I think that should already be a thing. That's not necessarily an associated thing with SBMM in general. I just think the DC penalty should be gone entirely, because all it does now is encourage people to kill themselves on hook, so they keep their blood points and they don't have a penalty when they go to the next game. And honestly, I believe that if this were to happen and there was an unranked mode with super loose matchmaking, I think the game would be a lot more fun for most players as a whole, and DCing in general would probably go down, even with the DC penalty gone. But overall, the entire point I'm making is that I think modern SBMM is far, far too strict and should be way looser, especially in a casual game with only one playlist like Dead by Daylight. I am just kind of against SBMM being so strict in general. And the big key point to take away as to why I don't like it and why a lot of players don't like it is the lack of variability and variety, the lack of differing skill sets, players, mindsets, and builds, as well as all the in-betweens there. That's kind of the reason why I'm not a big fan of it, because it takes all that away and just sets it to where it's the same kind of builds with the same kind of players with the same kind of skill sets, where you have to try and try and try, and it's exhausting. And no matter what, even if you do well, by the end of it, you're just stressed out. And I'll end off the video with this. A challenging match is not that bad every now and then. It gets the adrenaline pumping, it gets the blood flowing, it creates tension, it creates a dynamic between the two teams, and if you come out on top, my God, it feels amazing once you can finally do it. But just like with everything in life, if you just have the same thing over and over and over, it creates some massive burnout. And in the same way, playing against newer players and the lower end of the spectrum would just create the same thing in the opposite direction. It would be boring. There would be nothing challenging you. There would be nothing in the way. You would just lose interest in the game altogether, because it's not fun to stomp on people over and over. Every now and then, it is a great experience, and it makes you feel like, wow, everything that I've learned, all the time that I've put into the game, it meant something. Look at this. Look at how it translates, and it can feel good. And then you can have another match in which you're at a slight disadvantage, and you're like, okay, this is kind of humbling that those guys are really good. And then you can have another match where it's a variety of players, where you've got newer players and the older generation of players, and then those guys in the middle who are the average players, and it's just kind of a crazy, wacky experience in that match as well. And then you can have these bounce back and forth kind of chaotic matches over and over and over, where you don't have the same game over and over, you don't have the same type of players over and over. Everyone's running different kind of builds, and every match feels like a unique experience that tells a story. And that is how I'm going to end it off. That is why I do not like strict SBMM, strict MMR, and why I don't like it being tightened in DBD and in any game for that matter. Anyway, this has been a kind of a long tangent / rant / explanation. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know why you agree or disagree. Thank you very much for listening to me for 13 minutes talk about this. I appreciate your time. If you made it this far, bless you. Thank you. Appreciate you. And have a great rest of your day. Enjoy, and let me know what you think. Bye-bye.